Hello everyone, what's going on? Heir of Carthage here, and welcome to Ancient Egypt, where we're going to have a multiplayer battle here between Irsu and Ramesses. It's going to be Sol Invictus and Urukai. Urukai, however you say, I don't know. Maybe that's how it's pronounced, but this should be interesting. Both players are playing as an Egyptian race, culture, I don't know, faction, whatever you call it here. But each leader could be a little different, and of course there's going to be potentially different units brought to the battlefield that slow things down. Let's take a look at the units. Let's dissect what could possibly be going on here. Now, leading up front are going to be some Isuan militia. These are club and shield infantry, kind of cheap throwaway units that can, do a little missile blocking up front, charge blocking, that kind of thing. Clubs do come with good armor piercing damage. In fact, all of the armor or damage on these clubs is armor piercing. It's just that with a melee attack of 18, they're not going to be landing a lot of hits on anything that has decent melee attack. But we can see that there's 4 of those clubs across the front. I see some spear units on the flanks. Let's check these out. These are Phrygian spearmen. Now, these are going to be spear and shield infantry. Two-handed spears are a little bit of a different animal. But as far as spears go, of course, they get a bonus versus large. And you can see that that is an 18. So if they're fighting chariots, they will be particularly effective. I don't know that there are a whole lot of other large units in the game other than chariots, so spearmen are going to be particularly good against them. Otherwise, they will provide a decent defensive front, and these spears actually have quite a lot of armor for Egyptian units, because a lot of these Egyptian units tend to be low armor, so there's another Phrygian spear on the other side. Did I say these were both Egyptian? No, Irsu, sorry, this is the Hittites, my bad. I apologize, so this is going to be Hittites versus Egypt, and the Hittites do have plenty of armored units, just those clubmen are not going to be, so not surprised to see the spearmen with that heavy armor, and then the Phrygian spearmen should have given that away for me anyway. Now there are some Sabu warriors here, Sabu Nagib warriors. These are going to be axe warriors. Now axes in the game, these particular ones, have a good amount of armor. They have shield, which is going to provide them decent, it's actually not amazing melee defense, but it's they're going to come out with pretty decent attack, but really it's the damage profile here that's going to be intense. 24 armor piercing plus 24 outside of that, and they get a bonus against any unit that has a shield. You can also see that they have this reckless advance formation, which is going to increase their melee attack by 6 at the cost of 4 melee defense. So if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit, you can increase their attack potential and have them push forward. Now, weight classes are important in both Troy and again now in Pharaoh, because those weight classes make a big difference depending on like when you get hit by a charge from a heavier class into say a lighter class. Bracing, all those kind of things are pretty important. These are medium units. These spears on the outside, the Phrygian spears, are also a medium unit. There's more of those axe warriors, and then there's going to be a lot of upper Egyptian militia slingers, and it looks like just more Phrygian spears. The general is in a club bodyguard here, which let's take a look at the damage profile there. 42, and it's all armor piercing damage. Not an amazing attack, but pretty solid defense through there. Pretty solid armor as well, so the bodyguard unit will be potent. And then as far as chariots go, we've got Royal Chariot Companions. I haven't seen these yet in game. Very cool looking unit model here with the race stripes. Very Ben-Hur like, and they are going to be chariot archers. They are a medium weight class, and then it's another Royal Chariot companions up in front of them. And then on the other side, we're going to have Sinai, what is this, Sinai? Hang on. Sineni chariots? I don't even know how to pronounce that. That is something else here, which is also a bow chariot, and they also have a cool color pattern going on here, which also an archer chariot. If we look at it, those have range 200, missile damage 46. Let's see how it stacks up here. It looks like the same damage profile from a missile standpoint, and then the same weight class. They are medium skirmish chariots. And then for the Egyptians here, we're going to have some Sheridan Spear Bodyguard here, which, interesting, it's a bodyguard unit, but it's not actually a bodyguard. Now, these spear units like this one can switch between two-handed spear and spear and shield type of mode. So it's going to be an interesting one. As you can see here, it says carrying shields in their back will now block projectiles coming from the back, so you can switch that. And it changes their damage profile a little. You can see here that their charge bonus increases significantly, as does their damage when they switch into a two-handed spear profile. So that was something that was present in Troy and is apparently present here as well. We've got some upper Egyptian militia clubmen up front, and they are leading the way for some Kopesh warriors here. And these are all elite Magi or I think that's how you say it, right? It looks like Medjay to me, but I think it's Medjay. I could be wrong. But these are Khopesh shield, Khopesh units, which essentially damage like an axe. Khopesh has a profile more like an axe warrior here. As you see, 23 armor piercing and 34 standard damage. So very high damage, very good attack, very good defense. These are very elite units, and that's why their numbers are a little bit lower than some of the other units around them. So that is a very elite infantry line, albeit few in number. And this is another spear and shield bodyguard back here, though this one, of course, is doing the spear and shield, not the shield on the back. They are, of course, going to be good against large, but they have a 25 bonus because it's a more elite unit. A solid damage profile, but not a lot of armor piercing. And then you can see their attack is a little bit lower, obviously, than, say, like a Khopesh one. So, should be interesting. I do want to look at general abilities. It looks like we have the flanking maneuver here, which will give a unit speed and charge for, it looks like 45 seconds. And then they've got this inspiring shot, which will give extra morale, or sorry, inspiring shout. I was like, what, morale? And I realized I said the wrong word. And then hold your ground here, which will increase morale and melee defense at the cost of speed. So some interesting abilities there. And then let's go check out the general abilities on the other side, then we'll stick this into play. Let's see what we get here. We've got Bloodlust, which is going to make, it looks like you can target yourself or an ally, but one unit's going to make them unbreakable and they'll go berserk. And it looks like pick up some extra stats in the process. And then we got Charge here, which is going to be 30 seconds, increased charge speed and charge bonus. And Breakthrough Charges, which says unit is not affected by charge defense and charge reflect. Now that is really cool. If you have a really solid unit to charge in, you can put that on it, and it's going to negate, you know, a lot of bracing and stuff. So it's only going to do it with a single unit, but if used properly, that could be pretty awesome. Now I do like that these medium axemen are going to be going up against the elite Khopesh warriors. I don't know that they would win the fight, but maybe they'll trade well money-wise. We'll have to see how that balancing works out. Because they dig through armor and they have a bonus against shields, these units might trade well against those elite Medjay warriors. We shall see. And then we're getting a good skirmish going on between the chariots. Both players are working spears out amongst their chariots to give them a little bit of added protection. I think that is an appropriate move. And then just as far as numbers go, let's see if it'll, yeah. It just shows enemy troop count. Yeah, it's not going to give us, or yeah, here's the allied troop count here. So 1,552, so there is a numeric advantage because of all that elite infantry for Sol Invictus. But let's see how this one plays out. So here comes the Slinger Fire, and it is targeting the elite units. This is a good idea because remember on this game, you can wear down armor like this, and it'll pick away at hit points a little bit, but more importantly, you can start to wear down some of that armor. Also, if we look at that right here, this is an interesting thing I saw pop up. Is that shields? Shielded, armored. I'm trying to figure out what this, what that 82 of 150 indicator is. It might be the projectiles. Like, I don't think they had a projectile. Let's watch it. Maybe they did have a projectile they threw. I don't think they did, though. It may be shield, like shield armor or something. I don't know exactly what it is. But anyway, you can see these units meeting in combat. I like that the cheap clubmen were able to get some impacts onto the more elite infantry, and then the axes are going to come in afterwards. That little bit of layering effect may do well for the Hittites. We'll see. The Egyptians tend to be a little bit lighter and faster as a general rule. But these elite warriors, of course, you know, they're heavily armored, and you can see that their weight class is medium. So none of them are super heavy, but this one's getting torn up pretty good just by the numbers. And again, this is always a good question. It depends on the Total War game. It depends on how the balancing goes on whether elite warriors can actually pull their weight. And we know that, like, for instance, in Warhammer, that can be really tricky. No chariot charges yet, but look at these spears pushing the chariots back on the Egyptians. This does look like it may have opened some potential here for the Royal Chariot Companions to get in here and maybe go after these Medjay archers. We'll see. Looks like the general is being used to help slow down these enemy spear unit back here. So numbers game playing out pretty good for Sol right now. But if you look at it, it's kind of stabilized after the charge, and those axe units not quite chopping through there as quickly as they had been. But I mean, there's an impressive number of kills on the Medjay warriors. but the Axemen have a whole bunch of kills as well. Alright, so look at this. The Egyptian chariots are actually going to come through their own lines. This is something that Total War games kind of allow, where you don't take the friendly damage from it, so you can certainly do this. And this is going to get rid of some of these axes, so this could end up being decisive, because Soul's infantry is getting wrapped up a little bit over here on his right flank. It would be the left flank of the Egyptians, and then back here, it looks like Irsu is actually coming up against Ramesses. And 1-to-1, I would think Irsu would do pretty good against Ramesses' bodyguard here with the spears, just because of the armor piercing, but there's a lot of factors that could come into play here, like prior damage, whether or not one of them is being attacked in the rear, all that kind of stuff. These Magi archers have some really good damage, and they are causing a ton of damage over here. And at this point, there's kind of a numbers game here, and it's going to be curious as to whether these slingers can help even some of this out as some units come back from routing. Slingers don't cause a ton of damage, but they do have solid range and a lot of ammunition, so they kind of need time to do their work, in order to do it best, I should say. Look at this, they're being pressured by these upper Egyptian militia clubmen. They'll want to keep those away. The chariots here for Soul Invictus now are kind of helping to get in here against the enemy infantry, as well as maybe break a little bit of the charge. This Phrygian spearman doing a good job over here. Look at that, there goes one of the Egyptian chariots. You definitely need to bring some spears. Chariots will run roughshod all over like medium and light units that aren't spears in this game. Javelins and archers will do away with chariots rather quickly, and honestly, spears are pretty good against them in a melee. They may take a lot of damage on the charge, but if the melee persists for very long, usually the spears do quite well against the chariots. Now let's look at this. The chariots are going to go after the slingers. This is a good idea. However, if the slingers don't get any additional pressure, they might be able to have 1 or 2 units flee away while the others fire in and try and finish these. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening here. You can see that getting hit in the back, look how quickly it ate into the morale. Because that chariot's way out here, it's outnumbered, and it just got hit in the back. And then there's a spear coming to protect it as well. So you can see that that chariot just didn't quite get any kills there. And these slingers live on, and those slingers could end up being a real big potential problem. Look at that, though. Ramesses totally handles Irsu's bodyguard and just pushes him right out of town. I don't know if that was a combination work with the archers. It very well might have been. But yeah, Ramesses' bodyguard crushing Irsu over there. But Irsu's army is still here. They have a lot of range. And we'll see whether this is over or not. The power balance here says that it's in favor of Irsu. So we'll see. There's 734 warriors left for him and 478 left for the Egyptians. So that numbers game has not really switched at this point. There is this archer unit left, and you can see it still has a... that's actually out of ammunition now. So archers will expend their ammunition faster, they'll do their damage faster, but they do it at decreased range. Look at this, boy, there's... I believe those are arrows coming in from the chariots over here. They are, because I'm seeing some of these guys get impaled with the arrows. Looks pretty cool. We need some blood effects in this game. I hate that the Total War games don't just release with that, because it's kind of become a staple of them. In fact, in the Warhammer games, if you don't have it, it just doesn't even feel like the same game, because that universe is supposed to be kind of grimy and gory, I think. Look at the slingers here, focusing fire back here into Ramesses. His armor continues to drop, and then this unit's going to be getting tired. And it looks like Cadmians here are going to achieve a victory. There was one being led by Irsu, so it looks like the other player admits defeat as that battle was drawing on, and he didn't really have a way to overcome those slingers. There's not a lot of mobility in this game, and when you go for like that huge bunch of elite troops, there is the risk that you end up in this situation if the person has a lot of skirmish potential, which the Hittites aren't really, amazing at skirmish, but that was a lot to bring. And you might think, well, how do you make up for some of that lack of skirmish? Well, you can bring light infantry that move quickly. So like javelin men are great at kind of acting as a poor man's cavalry, right? They move quickly on the flank. They have the javelins to do a little bit of skirmishing with. You can bring very light spearmen. You can bring two-handed club type units that can move quickly on the flanks. So there's some ways that you can get some maneuverability in these games. Again, you kind of have to watch those weight classes. Typically with your main line, you usually want there to be a little bit of staying and bracing power. And then, of course, your flanks can be lighter and faster if that's what you choose. So, in any case, this was an interesting one. So, a good game between Sol and Uruk here. If we take a look at the kills on the units, the chariots did a pretty decent job. Let's see if it shows the gold value. I don't know the cost of these, but that is a lot of gold value, over 1,000 for both chariots. And I'm curious about the axe warriors. They did pretty well. Again, not sure the cost of these units because I haven't studied up on that, but look at the slingers here. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of damage caused by the slingers. It's not a lot of gold value. But these things probably didn't cost much. And then again, the militia also probably didn't cost much. Let's take a look. It's a lot of Phrygian spearmen. That's a good idea to be able to control those chariots. I think that was well worth it to bring those spearmen. And if we look at the other side here, as far as who got the value, let's look at these Kopesh troops. I'm feeling pretty certain these Kopesh troops cost a lot more than the value that they got here. They were up against a bunch of cheap infantry. And I guess what it goes to show in this case is that these elite infantry may not be suited for mowing down blobs of non-elite infantry. They may be better suited for taking on other elite infantry. But I'm not 100% sure. I would have to spend some time, looking at the balancing of the game. I do like that there was kind of a throwaway line here to do the charges, and honestly, some of these units got just as good a value in many ways. Like, look at that, 428 on one of the Kopesh warriors, and then there you had 404 gold value there. 322, yeah. So, I mean, some of these did almost as good. The chariots did not get a ton of gold value. The archers actually did get a decent bit of value there, depending on what their cost is. But again, archers output their damage very quickly. Let's look at the value here, too. So, yeah, it does not look like Ramesses' bodyguard was the one who did most of the beating on Irsu, or else I would have expected to see that higher. But anyway, fun battle. Like I said, hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks to Sol Invictus for sending it over. I will see you soon with some more action in Total War Pharaoh and also in Total War Rome 2.